Welcome to Red Zone Extra Facebook Live, and we are glad to see you, if for no other reason, to get Herbie Teope to stop talking about karaoke. You are going to stop talking about karaoke, aren't you?
I can't promise I'm not going to stop singing.
For the first time since late September, we get to talk about a Chiefs home victory with Sam McDowell, Herbie Karaoke Teope, and Sam Mellinger. We're pretty sure Vahe Gregorian will be by soon. We promise Vahe every week, and sometimes we get a Vahe appearance. But he's doing, he's putting the finishing touches on his column. I look forward to reading it, and I hope you will join us with your questions and comments on Facebook Live, Red Zone Extra. But what do you know? Chiefs won a home game today. Maybe it took the changing of the clock, the fall back. It's dark outside here at 6 o'clock. Maybe it took that for the Chiefs to get it done today. Herbie, lead us off. What what was the headline of this game and first few paragraphs for this game story that once again you had to write not knowing who was going to win in the final moments?
2 or 3 rough draft leads, but you know what? I think this game here really says a lot about the character of the Chiefs. This was another tough NFC North opponent, a winning team, and they went toe-to-toe with them just like they did last week against Green Bay. But this time around, they were able to overcome some of the adversity that they suffered last weekend against the Packers. The Mecole Hardman fumble didn't cost them. Harrison Butker came up huge down the stretch there. And the defense, my goodness, the defense really stood up and took the best shot that Dalvin Cook, one of the league's top running backs, they took the best shot and they punched him right back in the mouth. And I thought that was very impressive. There were a lot of storylines in this game, and I know like Sam wrote about it. That's where Vahe is right now, we think, writing about this. I know you wrote about the kicker, Harrison Butker. So there were a lot of things in this game, but I thought that this game really showed the character of the team because, again, they did this without Patrick Mahomes against one of the league's best teams. So that was impressive.
Matt Moore goes to 1-1 as a starter for the Chiefs. We will get into whether that will be his final record for the Chiefs a little bit later. But I thought Matt Moore played well last week against the Packers, and had similar stats this week, and it paid off in a victory for him. Let's just go to the final sequence, okay? The Chiefs defense does a terrific job getting the ball back, forcing a punt, and they get the ball back on a poor punt. So they get the ball in good field position, but on the first play they lose 14 yards on a sack, so the Chiefs are starting somewhat in a hole. But a big 17-yard completion to Travis Kelce, a hot route to Tyreek Hill for 13 yards, and Butker kicks the 44-yarder game winner. And I believe you have determined, or it's been determined, that there was a little. It was blocked.
Yeah,
the field goal, the game-winning field goal, was tipped at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, Butker said in his post game that, hey, that's what I'm going with. The fact that it was tipped or blocked at some point, just because. I think all of us could see, but based on our side angle, that the ball was knuckling the way it was in. There wasn't spinning in over end. And he said because he kicked the ground a little bit first, that's usually a good sign because the ball will spin in over end. He looked up and kind of panicked a little bit, like that doesn't look right, and said he's never kicked a ball like that. So he just said, I'm going with it had to be blocked. And Daniel Hunter, I believe it was, did say in his postgame in the Vikings locker room apparently that he did get a piece.
Is that who got it? Hunter did?
Yeah.
He is such a good player.
He broke through the line.
He came up the middle, right?
Yeah, came up the middle, and I mean, 44-yarder to get tipped and still go in. I mean, that's. I don't have any stats on that, but that's got to be unusual.
After making a 54-yarder to tie the game. And
kind of weird wind today. I mean, we were looking at the flags, Herbie and I, a lot throughout the game. We were talking about it. The wind was blowing hard in one direction at one point, pretty hard in the other one. But Butker seemed most excited about it, actually, because he kicked 3 field goals in the last 15 and a half minutes of this game. And it was the one at the end of the third quarter that he was particularly pleased with because he thought it was identical to the kick he missed last week against Green Bay on the right hash. As a righty, his ball has a natural hook from right to left, and the wind was also going that way. And that's what he said was the issue last week. And so he just drilled that over and over again this week. So to make that one, I think, was the one he was most proud of. But of course, we're all going to remember the last one.
Yeah, and the fact that he was 4 for 4. I know he was down on himself for missing one last week, and Andy Reid even brought it up. I remember in the post-game press conference.
Times,
you can't miss field goals especially when you don't have your quarterback going, and you can't fumble, even though that happened today. So it occurred to me when you mentioned the McCole Hardman fumble, Herbie, that the Chiefs are now 2-0 in games in which McCole Hardman fumbles the second half kickoff, because he did it at Detroit too, I think.
Yep.
And they ended up winning that game. So Sam. I know you kind of wrote about a big picture thing. I thought it was a heck of a win for the Chiefs, and one that I didn't think was going to happen. I believe you joined me in that.
Absolutely.
In that belief. But bottom line for us.
Yeah, the moment that stuck out, and this is what I led the column with, was right after the kick, and Butker just sprints the other way, and you can see like this mass of these red jerseys spilling out from the sideline, first toward the 34-yard line where he kicked it from, and then just like chasing him down the field. And you see a little guy in a sort of mullet in a camo sweatsuit with a knee brace on his right knee, and he's like the first one to Butker. And you're just thinking, no.
Please don't. What are you doing? Please don't.
And they kind of embraced each other, but sort of like at a distance, like it was kind of like two teenagers dancing with the chaperones, There's like a little space, and then there's just like, okay, that's enough. And then like Mahomes like walks away by himself, and Butker goes and celebrates with his teammates. And just to me, that's this team at this moment, like celebrating either the best or the second best win of the season. I think with the Ravens is the other one that I'm thinking about, but still cognizant of the bigger picture, right? Of keeping that guy healthy.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to get him. The sort of soft plan for a while now has been the Titans game, and so to me, I just think they just stole a game against a really good team,
playoff team,
with their third string quarterback, and did that, and now is going to get the MVP back. If you look at their schedule, the Titans lost today.
Yep.
So the Patriots are the only team on the Chiefs' schedule right now that has a winning record. If the Chiefs go 6-1 over those games, it's very likely that they get the number 2 seed. And home field, we talked about this, right? Yeah. You wrote about it this week. Not that big of a deal, but a first round bye is certainly preferable.
More rest, yeah.
So the one exception, of course, the Patriots are 8-0. We'll see if they go 9-0 tonight. But if they can finish 6-1, very likely that they get that. If they finish 5-2, even, they've got a pretty good shot.
We picked the game on Thursday at our Facebook Live at Big O Tires, and you and I and who else? You?
No.
Karaoke. We all. But I wasn't.
We were wrong.
We were wrong. But it wasn't. We left. It was a split decision, right? I mean, we left open the possibility. But I'm with you, Sam. This is an impressive win over a team I think is good enough to be in the playoffs. We'll see if they're there.
Yeah,
NFC's really tough. I mean, it's a tough business. You can be 10-6 and not get in the playoffs in the NFC this year.
And totally, like in any way, anyhow that you can beat a team as good as the Vikings is going to be a really good day. But again, to do it with a third string quarterback, but also, Dalvin Cook had been like ripping apart the league. And he goes for 71 yards on 21 carries. I mean, that's 3.7, 3.8, something like that per carry for a run defense that has been justifiably crushed for about 3 years now. Mm-hmm. A group of linebackers that were just slaughtered over the past week or two, and they showed up really well. I mean, those sorts of look like the defense isn't great, but it's a clear upward trend line.
It is,
and they're improving in clear ways each week. Chris Jones made a big difference today too.
He did.
Yep, and lined him up on the outside.
Yeah.
As his former position. He wasn't in the middle. Although I think in the second half we saw him in the middle more. But at the beginning of the game, it was he, Agba, and Passanio were that was the rotation at defensive end. So, how about what do you think of this idea that the Chiefs? They lost a one-score game last week. They win a one-score game this week. I think Matt Moore's comfort level grew this week. We could tell from the touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill that he said last week that he underestimated Tyreek Hill's speed. This week he didn't. He laid it out there for him. Tyreek Hill makes a fantastic catch and scores. But today also may have been a difference between if we yes, the defense has improved and other things went well, but it may be the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins as well.
That was a big difference.
Yeah.
That was a big difference. I mean, that's not new, right? But that was not even the good Kirk Cousins. The image that's going to stick is 3rd and whatever, and he scrambles. He's got a lot of space, and he slides perfectly a yard and a half short of the
That was
sticks.
like 3 yards shy.
I mean, that's an unforced error. And he was, I think, 19 of 38. I think that's right. Just inaccurate at other times. And I think the Chiefs, give Steve Spagnuolo credit. We've been saying that a little bit more often over the last month, right? I think they confuse the Vikings. I think they, were flipping coverages and we're in zone when Cousins was expecting man and vice versa. And also just up front, I think the Vikings, I don't watch them obviously like every week, but sure seems like the kind of team that they get Dalvin Cook going and then everything else opens up. And the Chiefs never allowed that to happen. Derek Nottie was a beast, right?
Great
In
game.
the
6
middle.
tackles.
He was
Absolutely.
He's been really good for a month now.
He was incredible.
The Vikings actually said after the game that not only were they mixing stuff up, like you said, in coverages, but they were mixing up what they were doing up front, and that caused their offensive line some confusion as well. And I think what they were referring to is there were a few times where the linebackers were lined up on the line of scrimmage, and then they backed up. It was difficult to tell who was coming and who wasn't. Even on running downs. I mean, you see that a lot on 3rd and longs, but even on running downs, and I thought it just confused the linemen about who to block tonight.
We had a comment. No new injuries today, which
Which is huge. Yeah.
That's a first, I think. For there's always 1 or 2 guys that that don't finish the game and are out. In fact, I counted before the game today when we got the inactives, and again 6 more starters didn't play again today. Mahomes and go down the list. That's 3 games in a row. That's 6 players who started in the opening game at Jacksonville. So it's a 3rd straight week. 6 starters didn't play, and then the week before that there were 5. The Chiefs have missed 31 games to start, 31 starts this year from starters.
Wow.
People who started the Jacksonville game.
Yeah.
That's a ton.
Yeah,
That's a ton.
And they're 6-3, which is pretty darn good.
Absolutely. If you were the Chiefs and you said these last 2 games, if you can make it through, and then we all seem to think that this is the start and end of the stretch that they're going to have without Mahomes. And you would have thought if they can win one of those 2 games against 2 teams that have 6-win teams, they'll take it. And based on the way the rest of the AFC is unfolding, I agree with Sam. I think the Chiefs are the front runner for the number 2 seed based on what they did today.
That's tough. I mean, that's good stuff. If that's I had my doubts going in because of the Texans, and the Texans won today right over in London, and aren't they 6-3 now too with the tiebreaker over the Chiefs?
And then the Colts lost.
Colts lost to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And lost Jacoby Brissett today.
Yeah,
knee
and then,
injury.
Baltimore's going to start playing here in a little bit.
Yeah, and those are the teams you kind of look at as other possible division winners and playoff opponent types.
And I know I said this the other day on the show, but if there's a scenario where all 3 of those teams, the Texans, Ravens, and this team, finish 11-5, and if the Ravens beat the Texans at home, the Chiefs would have that tiebreaker based on, you would assume, based on the AFC West record.
We spent a lot of time on Thursday talking about what's wrong with Arrowhead, and you wrote about it, Sam, in today's paper. Where's the Arrowhead magic? I thought today was even more of a visitors stadium than last week with the Packers, with the amount of purple we saw in here.
I thought your analogy was the best. That it looked like a K-State Nebraska game here.
Yeah, on a neutral field. K-State Nebraska bowl game.
Yeah.
The opposing fans caused a false start from the Chiefs. That's a thing that happened today.
That's right. That was. I don't think I've seen as many when the Steelers are here. They bring a ton of people, and Packers obviously.
Packers had a bunch last week.
I have never seen more visiting fans in the stadium than I saw today.
Today was something different. I mean, before the game, it was more Vikings fans in here, and then of course the Chiefs fans are
the tailgaters.
The tailgaters. They know kind of when to hit the gates. So, it was close to 50-50. And I know we see the visiting side, so people like to get behind their team's bench. So we probably saw the heaviest percentage of Vikings fans. We can't see the lower level down here behind the Chiefs bench, but the part we saw, it seemed pretty close to a split.
I think, not Vahe. Blair brought up a good point, though. before the game, Minneapolis is only 6 hours away, so
You can get here
yeah,
pretty
you can
easily.
get here. You can get here.
All right, so I've been stalling, waiting for Vahe to get here to talk about Tyreek Hill.
Nope.
No Vahe in sight, but which is why Sam has the mic, by the way. He's going to share with Vahe when he gets here because we're
If he gets here.
if he gets here. I thought Tyreek Hill was the best player in the game today, difference maker from the first touchdown reception to the fact that he was on the field at returning punts and they didn't kick to him, which
Yeah.
created the short punt.
Sure did.
You know, I mean, he is the ultimate difference-making player, isn't he?
And the Vikings just freaked out when they saw Tyreek Hill back there to return a punt.
Kick it out of
I
bounds.
mean, those were terrible punts. That touchdown was a marvel of athleticism.
The
The way-
first, you're talking about the touchdown reception.
Yeah, I mean, just the extension. I mean, just catching it and falling on the ground would have been a hell of a play. But then he somehow plants right leg, left leg, and then the right leg, I think, again to dive into the end zone
Yeah.
across the. I mean, that was
The
amazing.
football
and then,
move.
Yeah, definite football move. And I mean, the on Damien Williams' touchdown, that video is going to live a long time.
When you ran him down.
Yeah, I mean,
That was amazing. It was amazing.
I saw somebody online compared it to Mr. Freeze in those
Yeah,
Braves games.
great.
They're just like this guy.
I like your tweet, though. I like your analogy, the airport people
Yeah, the
mover.
people mover. I mean, it didn't look like reality. It just didn't. But then, I mean, more, affecting of the game. The last play that set up the Butker kick, that was going to be a 50-yarder, a 52-yarder. At that point, if it gets blocked, it's not good.
And more talked about that play because they were expecting a zero blitz on that play because that's what the Vikings were doing basically the last two drives, and especially that drive. They realized they could get to Matt Moore and that he wasn't
Right.
making
Those last two series, they put a lot of pressure on
Yeah,
Matt Moore.
and I thought if there was a weakness today in Matt Moore was that he wasn't making super quick decisions. And he decided before that play, I've got to get this ball out no matter what. And that Tyreek Hill was going to be the guy if they were bringing the zero blitz, and he expected they were going to bring the zero blitz. So Hill ran the route he was supposed to run, but Moore said he shortened it up because so many guys were coming. And he said, thank God he did because I had to get rid of the ball so quickly. And Tyreek Hill was already turned around waiting on it because he saw all the guys coming. So there was a little bit more adjustment sort of on spur of the moment on the spot than probably looked like it was on TV.
On the Tyreek Hill touchdown, though, and Sam, you were saying he did an amazing job of getting into the end zone. Matt Moore said after the game he didn't even see the
Yeah, he
play
did.
because he got hit. He was being taken to the ground, didn't realize that Hill had caught it until the roar of the crowd and one of the offensive linemen was telling him, Hill caught it, let's go. And he was
Yeah.
like, sweet, he caught it.
Moore's a good talker, and you like to get him to explain some plays, but there were two or three plays he was like, I to be honest, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't see it. My back was on the ground, which is something I think all of us have sort of marveled at his game that maybe we didn't quite know until you actually see him play. He certainly is willing to stand in there and take a hit.
Yeah.
So a couple want to know, should Damien Williams be the guy and not LaShawn McCoy?
I think with Andy Reid's offense, he's going to go with the hot hand. He's shown that throughout the years, with the exception when he had Jamal Charles here as his guy. Even going back to his time in Philadelphia, he always had that committee approach until somebody emerged. McCoy in Philly, Brian Westbrook in Philly, Deuce Staley in Philly, but they also had two or three other running backs to go along with him. I don't know if Williams can be the guy as long as McCoy is here because they're going to get McCoy touches.
I'll tell you what, and Damien Williams said after the game, he was as he was going down the field on the 91-yard touchdown run, which he was watching on the Jumbotron, watching himself on the Jumbotron, and that's when he noticed Hill coming up from behind him.
That's funny.
Thought Hill was on the other side and was kind of just startled a little bit. I thought Damien Williams, he's a go-to guy in the locker room, just a really nice person to talk to, and he said he didn't take any of the credit for the run. That Andrew Wiley and Mitchell Schwartz kind of cleared it out, and then he made the one move on the safety, and then Tyreek Hill did the seal block on the cornerback that was chasing him down.
He still has to cut back, though, and because that's not where that play was intended to go. He makes that cutback into a different hole, I think, in the line than.
Yeah, maybe.
So
he's being humble. I mean,
he's
he
not
did
giving
make a
himself
couple
enough
good moves,
credit
but it
on
wasn't. That was not a Barry Sanders,
No.
90-yard run.
But I mean, in the backfield, though, it seemed like that was an off tackle to the left play, at least an off guard play, and he ends up back on the right side of the right guard on that play.
I'd have to watch it back again, but I just remember Schwartz coming over and just wiping out that edge.
Yeah.
And once he did that, whether planned or not, once he did that, there was.
Yeah.
I mean, it just there was a big opening right there for him.
So Jack Hilliard, tells us and reminds us that coaches, Dylan McCullough, the running backs coach, was talking about Darwin Thompson getting him some more playing time this week. I'll have to look at the snap counts, but I don't remember seeing him.
Well, he didn't dress.
Yeah, he was inactive.
Oh, he was inactive.
Yeah,
That's
he was
right.
inactive.
Darwin Thompson was inactive today. That's right. The 6 injured players and Darwin Thompson.
That's not a good sign.
No.
There's only one, healthy scratch, and you're that guy.
Yeah. What does that mean for him?
I don't want to read too much into it because of the move they made Saturday to bring up Ivy from the practice squad, defensive lineman, and I think a lot of that had to do with the opponent. They knew they had to load up to stop Dalvin Cook and this Vikings offense, and there was a lot of rotations going on there in the middle. Because remember, at the start of the game, you and I were saying, okay, who's in there now? And it was like a constant rotation because Jones didn't even start the game.
Right.
Remember, he was on the
And
sidelines.
having to push Jones some to the edge meant you needed another guy in the
Correct.
middle for those plays he was on the edge. Because
Correct.
they only had 2 healthy defensive ends today. So Jones had,
That's right.
Jones had to play some on
That's
the
why he was in
outside.
the defensive end rotation.
But for me, the running back situation, I agree with Herbie. I think it's going to go back to the hot hand. And it seemed like today McCoy was going to be the guy maybe late in that first half, and he did sense that Damien Williams had something going today, even before that long touchdown run.
So we'll be joined momentarily by Vahe Gregorian, who has wrapped up his column, and we'll get some more Tyreek Hill. You're going to share the mic with Sam.
Sing a note for us, please.
Standing room only for Mega A-team.
Yeah,
Is
we've
that the idea?
all done a little karaoke, so whatever
What do you want me to start
whatever
with?
you want. I mean, whatever moves the spirit.
I was serenading you with Memory Motel by the Stones the other day. Any of our audience know that song? Okay.
We'll see in a second.
Okay,
So we were just talking about Tyreek Hill and the game that he had.
Yeah.
And what did he say after the game? I didn't get to talk to him.
He was a lot of fun. He was in entertainment mode. So anytime you bring up speed with him, he's going to exploit that opportunity. So everything was kind of all about how, well, first of all, that you can't overthrow him. So he wasn't worried that Moore's pass was over his head. He also shrugged off any suggestion he might have felt off after he kind of dropped 2 passes. Drop is a little strong, but I think he could have caught 2 passes early. Mm-hmm. And then, though, the highlight really was talking to him about his role in the 91-yard touchdown run, which was sort of part just flash, really. I mean, I think Damien Williams scores that touchdown without Tyreek walling off the defender. But, I mean, we're going to remember that play for Tyreek escorting him in. And the sort of fun back and forth there was Damien Williams was watching Tyreek, was watching whatever was behind him on the end zone television, whatever we call that thing now. Some people don't know the name. The big screen. And saw Tyreek coming, but thought he was coming to his left side. And it seemed a little rattled when Tyreek actually came up on his right. And he said he almost dropped the ball. And I think the term I used was that he was laughing but not necessarily joking. Last part of this, I guess I've sort of said everything that's in the column by now. But the last...
Let's still click.
But please still click. The last part was Tyreek said that if he'd gotten him 5 yards earlier, he might have taken the ball from him and tried to get the touchdown for himself. So, but I took this as sort of a indicative of a good vibe in the clubhouse, as they say, and after a much-needed win that I'm sure you guys have already gotten into that point.
Actually, we haven't talked about the much-needed win part of what happened here today, because players did talk about that. Damien Williams spoke to that. You and I heard that. I talked to Andrew Wiley after the game, and yeah, there was. I got a sense that there was more than the usual amount of celebrating in the locker room after the game for this one. You know, we can't hear. We stand outside the locker room for about 10 minutes after the players go in, before the media is allowed in, and you can't hear what's going on in there. But I can imagine. But we'll see it at some point, right? Because the Chiefs cameras are in there, and I'm sure there'll be some sort of celebrating video that they'll be posted online. So, no, I just got a sense there was maybe some relief in winning this game today, a sense of relief. Can you imagine losing 4 straight home games with a team that you think is playoff? Playoff teams don't lose 4 home games in a row. I mean, I don't care who the opposition is. So, yeah, there's some circumstances here. The injuries are one thing. Matt Moore having to start a couple games, that's an issue. But I think it would have been. I don't know what the mood would have been if they'd lost this game.
I think
It was one thing to lose. It was one thing to lose to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, right?
Right.
I think it would have been tough to accept the loss today, even though, like I said, the majority of us picked the Vikings to win this game.
Except for 2 of us, huh? Look, I don't think I don't know how you define a must-win. I don't think it was this, but I think it's a little bit of a reset, right? I think, and that's a pretty salty Vikings team. I mean, that's like you said, Blair. I mean, it was not a win that was assumed. And
they were favored.
With
right?
so many guys
the
still
Vikings,
hurt.
Vikings ended up 3.5. Yeah.
With so many guys still hurt, including Patrick. I think this is a real shot in the arm.
I still feel like, and I agree with you, Blair, that was the mood in the locker room, but to me it felt like a bigger win than it would have been a bad loss today. I just didn't think the loss would have been something that spiraled the season down. They knew they had somebody coming back that could sort of offer that reset button that you mentioned. So I didn't view today as a must-win. I think it's kind of a bonus that they won today, because you're looking at winning the division, I think, regardless of what happens today. They're the favorite to win the division. And now that 2 seed is back in play. And like Sam said earlier, not for the home field advantage, but for getting an automatic win in the first round.
All right, do we assume Patrick Mahomes returns next week?
I think he plays next week, based on what we've seen.
I think what we saw during pregame, last Sunday when he came out and threw before the game against the Packers, he didn't move around a lot. He was stationary and threw. But what we saw today before the game, we're seeing an energized Mahomes. There were a couple of times where he jumped up in the air, and I'm like cringing every time he landed. And then even one time, he simulated a jump shot. Of course, he jumped off of his left leg, and when he landed, he came down on the left side, so as to not put any pressure on the right. But he looked good out there. He looked really good out there. Of course, everywhere he went, head athletic trainer Rick Burkholder was his shadow and followed him everywhere he went. But I thought he looked good.
He was running routes when Chad Henne was warming up.
Yeah.
And he's like running routes out there for Chad Henne, and this on the sideline, like trying to keep his feet in bounds. I mean, he looks like a guy that he mentally is for sure ready to play. I think at this point it's just up to the doctors and trainers for lessening the likelihood of a redislocation. Because as we've said, if without surgery, which he hasn't had, he's going to be at risk for having the exact same injury he already had. And just as time goes on, that gradually lowers, but it won't completely evaporate until you have that surgery.
Well, and as much as I think Matt Moore carried on admirably in the 2 starts that we've seen,
But they're still not the same.
he's immobile, and I just mean in that way. I think he showed a good arm. Are we? Is it fair to say he's been Alex Smithian these last couple of games?
Again, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he is, right? I mean, that's game manager.
There were a couple of plays early in the game where you and I said to each other, that's an Alex Smith play, because it looked just like the Chiefs under Alex Smith.
Yeah. So we'll carry on the conversation when you guys decide who's going to handle the microphone over here.
He's Alex Smith with less athleticism, much less athleticism, and the decisions aren't as fast. And that was actually one thing that was a knock on Alex at times, and I think fairly, is that there were times that his brain would just sort of lock, and he would just, I'm going to run it now or whatever. And Matt Moore does that, I think, to a higher degree, which you'd expect. He's a third stringer, and Alex Smith was a starter, with $80 million contract or whatever.
I think, I mean, he is definitely the 3 starter because Henny was here at the back. I think he's played well enough to be Patrick Mahomes' backup, though, when Mahomes is healthy. I mean, why wouldn't you want to have a guy that has played 2.5 games?
Been in the flow?
Yeah, and been in it, as opposed to a guy that's coming back from an ankle injury and you're not quite sure.
Brian Johnson says that Matt Moore makes Alex Smith look like Mike Vick as far as mobility is concerned. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Something to it.
Alex
is a good athlete.
There was a play where Moore got sacked today on the third to last drive, was it? Like the first drive that they had in the fourth quarter. It's a lot of numbers. Probably hard to keep track of it. What drive I'm talking about. But Moore had a little bit of time, and Hill was going to be open. I think you pointed it out, Blair, on a corner route to the end zone.
Yeah, for sure.
That would have been a real deep game, and Matt Moore just didn't have a way to get the ball out that I think Alex Smith would have, and for sure Patrick Mahomes would have had a way to get the ball out.
Yeah, Moore's cheat on that seems to be just to wait an extra second and just get annihilated.
I agree.
That seems to be like his way of like buying extra time.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Field Yates tweet about the speed?
Yeah.
Wasn't that was kind of funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it.
21.6, sustained 21.64 for 4 seconds, and reached 22.64. Or is this, you're not talking about Tyreek?
Yeah, Tyreek, the speed in which he ran down.
You did see it.
I did see it. As I recall, you might check me on this, Sam. But I think it said it was the fastest Tyreek Hill has ever run from scrimmage in the NFL.
Well,
he was making
22.64 miles an hour.
He was making a point. I mean, being able to help clear the way was just a bonus, I think, to the fact of look at how fast. Because Damien Williams, like Sam said, ran a 4.4 at the combine. So
yeah, but it really
Sherman
stood out in
motor
the press
down
box, though, because we're sitting there watching the play, and all you see is Hill just streaking. I'm like,
for
what
once
in
we
the
had the
world?
best view possible of a play.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
I actually asked him, and he said this. I think he meant it, that he started off, the idea was the block. And then he realized he could overtake Williams, and he just thought he should.
I'll say this: I don't know anybody who likes a trait of theirs nearly as much as Tyreek likes being fast. I mean, it's just, God, he loves it.
McCole Hardman said
St. Bolt doesn't feel the same way.
McCole Hardman said this week that he thought he might be able to take him in the give him a race in the 100, but not the 40. And this was closer to the 100 than it was the 40. There's no way.
All right, let's keep in mind a couple things. Damien Williams had a ball in his hand, and Tyreek Hill didn't, so he had that advantage.
12 ounces. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what Damien's saying. I had the ball in my hands, guys.
But did Tyreek say anything about his celebration where he crossed the end zone to jump into the stands? That looked like it was.
He didn't. About the time that came up, we got last one, guys, because it was. I did want to ask. It looked one of this Power Five here. I think thought that it looked like he was running across the field to a specific person, which I think it did have that appearance, but it was unclear. And I guess he was in on a couple good celebrations, and those are always worth asking. He's as proud of the celebrations almost as his speed.
He does love the celebration.
Yeah.
Well,
but I don't think that, because he later asked he told Harrison Butker to do the same thing. He said go jump in the
about the little bit of the celebration. That's as much as I've seen a Chiefs team celebrate a game at the end as I think I've ever seen here. And they have had other games where they won at the end, but that one, again, I just think there was a little bit of a pressure relief.
Did you talk about the most important part of the celebration?
Yeah, we did cover that. yeah.
The one that sticks out of a home celebration that I can think of that just approaches that was, I forgot what year it was now, but it was the opener against the Chargers.
Oh, yeah,
Chiefs came back from whatever it was.
21 down or something.
Yeah, and that was the Alex
Smith.
Alex Smith looks like Gladiator
The Dave
in the
Hewlett
Dave Hewlett photo. Yeah. I call it the Dave Hewlett game, actually, because of that picture. But it had that kind of, that was a wild scene. That was a wild scene.
All right. So Chiefs are 6-3, and everybody else in the West won today, right? Broncos ended up winning, Chargers won, and the Raiders won. So the Chiefs don't gain any any distance from the. But I think the Chargers win over the Packers pretty impressive. I mean that was impressive. Handled them really. And so you mentioned earlier, Herbie, maybe the Chargers are making their kind of typical second half run under Anthony Lynn, and Chiefs got to play him twice. So maybe that's the team and not the Raiders. Who knows? Coming down the stretch, we'll have to see. But I do think as we get out of here, we'll get some final thoughts. One of them has to be along the lines of beating a good team with your third-string quarterback. We've said it and talked about it different ways, but is a real positive note, and maybe flips things for the Chiefs a little bit going forward. So, Sam, why don't you get a final thought here, and what is it? What's the deep meaning of today?
Oh boy,
that's all we need. That's all we want is the deep meaning.
I mean, the first part of it, I think, is what I said earlier, that I think it's a bigger win than it would have been a loss. But part two, I guess, would be the defense for 2 straight weeks has played really well, save 2 or 3 plays in a game. And last year, when this team was giving up 25, 30, 35 points in a game, it was just constant 8, 9 yards every single play. They're getting 3 and outs. They're getting stops. And you go back and after a game you say, if not for leaving this guy completely unguarded in the flat, if not for having 10 guys on defense on one play, you're talking about the defense having a great day. There was some similar stuff last week with Aaron Jones just running through a couple linebackers that they played really well outside of those couple plays. So I think the defense is going to be better than maybe we even thought, because we didn't have high expectations based on the first 5 or 6 weeks, and they're showing some signs that I think they could be an asset over the last half of the season.
Okay, I agree. Herbie?
What Sam said.
No, but you've got to do it in song.
Oh boy, no, I can't think of a song right yet. You see, Sam says don't encourage us. I'm going to go back to my first point. I think today showed the character of this team. It really did. Last week they said there's no such thing as a moral victory in the National Football League, and they were absolutely correct. But they played the Packers as close as you could play them without Patrick Mahomes. This week they again secured a quality win against one of the quality teams in the National Football League, and that says a lot about this team, and it sets them up well the rest of the way.
All right, Vahe?
I'm going to go back to what Sam McDowell said, but take that back to what Sam Mellinger has said, which is that
spin it around.
Then to Sam Kerkhoff. But I do think we are starting to see at the mid-season point here maybe some gelling of the defense. That whatever it was, 3.6 yards a carry today against a potent running attack, and coming through when they needed to on a couple things. And so if you're looking for patterns, 2 of the last 3 games they've been a pivot point in the win. So let's just sort of hold on to that and see. But I also do think one last point, just as what we were saying earlier. Not a must win, but I think this resets the feeling a little bit, and it's what you want to see if you think there's reason to think they're going to be a Super Bowl team. You want to see them sort of coming through murky times in a better place.
Really?
The great Marv Levy said that the only must win was World War II. I like that line. I thought that I guess I'm going to continue on the defense thing, but they gave up 23 points, and look, 7 of it was off the McCall Hartman fumble, whatever. But I think the last time that the Chiefs won a game because of the defense, and they did some things offensively and Butker and all that stuff, but the defense was a huge part of it. The last time that the Chiefs beat a good team and the defense was this big of a part of it was Eric Berry's pick 2 in Atlanta, and that was 3 years ago. I looked through all the box scores. I didn't see another game since then that the defense had played this well. The Jaguars last year, but that Jaguars team ended up 5-11. Mm-hmm. And that was the game that Chris Jones had either a fumble return, interception return. I can't remember now, but and that is just hugely encouraging. Some of it is personnel, Derek Nottie. Some of it is scheme. And the secondary is playing really well. They're going to get Kendall Fuller back at some point. You would think so. That part of it is going to stick with me, and then after that, then the runway for the quarterback. it's as encouraging a moment as the Chiefs have had since beating Baltimore, I think.
That Atlanta game, that same year, and somewhere like within the vicinity of that Atlanta game, they went to Carolina.
It was before, yep.
Yep, and had it would the
Took it from him.
That's right. I just those two games stood out to me as just defensive. The defense made great plays, and of course that was the second punt into the stands.
I think that was the first.
Was it the first? I thought he had one here.
I thought that was the next week.
Okay, but it was in the series.
Yeah, it was.
It was part of the series.
Yeah, because that was the game where everybody was like, "That's a 15-yard penalty." You go around the locker room and they're like, "I thought it was 15." It turns out it was only 5. And the next week, everybody knew. He just got away with it.
I'll just say, I thought Andy Reid had a good day today.
Yeah.
Good day. He's got a game plan together, an offensive game plan. You're absolutely right about the defense, but I thought the Chiefs came up with enough offense today. And when Tyreek Hill is having performances like that, he is as unstoppable a player at his position as there is in the NFL, and the Chiefs took advantage of that today. So that was good to see. So good win for the Chiefs, 6-3. They end the 3-game losing streak here at Arrowhead Stadium. Tennessee Titans in Nashville next for the Chiefs. But before then, we will be talking to you from Big O Tires in, we think, the address
Liberty,
is
Kansas City.
Kansas City, Missouri, but up Liberty Way, toward Liberty. On Thursday morning, we look forward to talking to you then. So for Sam, Herbie, Vahe, Sam, and our producer Beth, thanks a lot, Beth, for putting all this together. We will bid you good night from Arrowhead Stadium, and we'll talk to you again soon.